Have you ever watched someone lose the respect of an entire room without realizing it was happening? Sometimes, it is not what a person says that changes the way others see them. It is what they reveal, how they react, what they tolerate, and what they do when emotions become stronger than wisdom. In public, every action tells a story about who you are. You may think nobody is paying attention, but people notice how you handle embarrassment, anger, rejection, success, and pressure. The truth is, you do not need to impress everyone to be respected. You need to learn how to carry yourself when the world is watching. There are things you should never do in public, not because you should live in fear of judgment, but because your dignity is worth protecting. Your private pain does not need a public audience. Your anger does not need a stage. Your success does not need an announcement. And your worth certainly does not need the approval of strangers. There is a certain power in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, when to walk away instead of arguing, and when to protect your peace instead of proving your point. A mature person understands that not every battle deserves an audience, and not every emotion deserves an expression. Sometimes the greatest display of strength is the ability to remain composed while everything around you is trying to pull you out of character. So today, I want you to look beyond simple manners. I want you to think about the kind of person you become when people are watching. Because your reputation may be built slowly, but it can be damaged in a single careless moment. And once you understand these 9 things you should never do in public, you will begin to move differently, with more confidence, more wisdom, more self-respect, and a quiet strength that no crowd can take away from you. There is a difference between feeling anger and becoming anger. Every human being gets frustrated. Every human being has moments when someone says something painful, disrespectful, or unfair. You are not weak because you feel the heat rising inside you. You are human. But the moment you allow that heat to speak for you, you give another person the power to decide who you become. And that is a price too high to pay. When you lose your temper in front of everyone, you may win the argument and still lose something far more valuable, your composure. Words spoken in anger can travel farther than you ever intended. A sentence that takes 3 seconds to say can remain in someone's heart for years. People may forget what started the disagreement, but they often remember the person who shouted, insulted, threatened, or allowed emotion to take control. Your anger may have been justified, but losing yourself inside that anger can make your truth difficult for others to hear. Think about how much power you possess when you refuse to react immediately. Someone provokes you, and instead of giving them the explosion they expected, you breathe, you pause, you look at the situation clearly. That pause is not weakness, that pause is power. It is the space between what happens to you and what you choose to do about it. In that small space, you protect your dignity. You do not have to answer every disrespect with louder disrespect. You do not have to prove that you are strong by becoming aggressive. Anyone can raise their voice. Anyone can slam a door. Anyone can say something cruel when emotions are burning. But it takes discipline to stand there with a steady voice and say, I will not allow this moment to turn me into someone I do not recognize. And understand this. Controlling your temper does not mean accepting mistreatment. It does not mean becoming silent when someone crosses a serious boundary. It means choosing your response instead of surrendering it to your emotions. You can speak firmly without screaming. You can walk away without creating a scene. You can establish a boundary without humiliating another person. Strength does not always sound loud. Sometimes strength sounds like a calm sentence spoken by someone who knows exactly where they stand. There will be moments when people deliberately push your buttons because they want to see you lose control. They may know exactly what to say. They may provoke you in front of others because they believe your reaction will make you look foolish. Do not hand them that victory. Let them reveal their character while you protect yours. You are not responsible for the ugliness someone brings toward you, but you are responsible for what you carry away from the encounter. The next time you feel anger rising in a crowded room, remember that you have a choice. You can react and give the moment control over your reputation, or you can pause and give yourself control over the moment. Walk away if you need to. Take a breath. Drink some water. Wait until your heart is quiet enough for your wisdom to speak. You will never regret protecting your dignity, but you may regret giving one temporary emotion the power to define you. Your calmness is not an absence of strength. It is evidence of strength. When you master your reactions, people begin to understand that your peace cannot easily be purchased, provoked, or stolen. And that is a kind of power no angry outburst could ever give you. There is a kind of power that does not need to make another person feel small in order to feel tall. It does not need an audience, a cruel joke, or a sharp comment to prove that it is strong. Yet in public, people sometimes forget this. They become frustrated with someone and decide that embarrassment is the best punishment. They expose someone's mistakes, mock their weaknesses, or say something deeply personal simply because they know other people are listening. In that moment, they may feel powerful, but true strength is never built on another person's humiliation. You may believe that making someone look foolish will make you look wiser. It will not. When you publicly insult another person, you may reveal far more about yourself than you reveal about them. People are watching not only what the other person did, but how you chose to respond. They notice whether you showed maturity or cruelty, whether you corrected a problem or simply wanted to hurt someone. And sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one who understands your character most clearly. There is a difference between holding someone accountable and destroying their dignity. If someone makes a mistake, you can address the mistake. If someone behaves disrespectfully, you can establish a boundary. If someone hurts you, you can speak honestly about the pain. But you do not need to turn their weakness into entertainment for everyone else. A person's mistake is not an invitation for you to become cruel. Imagine how different the world would feel if people corrected one another with dignity. Instead of saying, "How could you be so stupid?" you could say, "This was not handled well, and we need to fix it." Instead of exposing someone's private failure in front of a crowd, you could speak to them privately. Instead of using someone's insecurity as a weapon, you could remember that every person carries battles you may know nothing about. And never forget that people remember how you made them feel. Someone may forget the exact words you used, but they may remember standing in a room surrounded by people while someone they trusted made them feel worthless. Do not become the person whose temporary anger becomes another person's permanent wound. You have no idea how deeply your words may travel into a heart after the crowd has gone home. There is also wisdom in understanding that not every correction belongs in public. Some conversations are sacred because they involve someone's dignity, reputation, or private struggle. If something can be handled quietly, handle it quietly. If someone deserves an explanation, give it without an audience. If someone needs correction, offer it without cruelty. You do not become smaller by protecting another person's dignity. In fact, you become greater. And if someone humiliates you publicly, Remember that you do not have to return the same energy. You can stand tall without becoming vicious. You can answer firmly without becoming disrespectful. You can walk away without feeling defeated. Sometimes the most powerful response to public humiliation is refusing to allow someone else's poor behavior to change your character. Your character is revealed not only by how you treat people who can benefit you, but by how you treat people when you have the opportunity to embarrass them. Anyone can be cruel when they have an audience. It takes wisdom to remain compassionate when cruelty would be easier. So before you make someone the subject of a joke, before you expose their mistake, before you say something designed to wound them in front of others, pause. Ask yourself what kind of person you want to be remembered as, because dignity is not something you protect only for yourself. It is something you learn to recognize in every human being. And when you stop needing to make others feel small, you discover that your own strength was never dependent on their weakness. There are people who do not enter a conversation because they want understanding. They enter because they want a reaction. They are not looking for peace, clarity, or a solution. They are looking for the moment when you lose your patience, raise your voice, or say something you will later wish you could take back. They may push the same button again and again, waiting for you to give them exactly what they came for. And one of the greatest forms of wisdom is recognizing when a conversation has stopped being a conversation and has become a trap. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. Just because someone challenges you does not mean you must defend yourself. Just because someone misunderstands you does not mean you must spend hours proving your intentions. And just because someone speaks loudly does not mean they are right. There is a freedom that comes when you realize that your peace is more valuable than winning an exchange that was never meant to be productive. Some people will twist your words, interrupt your explanations, question your character, and then accuse you of being defensive when you respond. If you continue chasing their approval, you will find yourself trapped in an endless circle. You explain, they distort. You clarify, they attack. You defend yourself, they move the argument somewhere else. At some point, wisdom says, enough. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you understand that your words will not create understanding where understanding is not wanted. Silence can be powerful, but silence does not mean weakness. Sometimes silence means, I know what I know, and I do not need to prove it to you. Sometimes it means, I refuse to allow your behavior to dictate mine. And sometimes it simply means walking away before a temporary disagreement becomes a permanent regret. There is dignity in knowing when a conversation has reached its limit. Imagine someone trying to pull you into a storm while you are standing on solid ground. If you rush into the storm simply because they invited you, you may lose your balance too. But if you remain grounded, their chaos does not become your chaos. That is emotional discipline. You can hear someone's anger without absorbing it. You can witness their disrespect without returning it. You can acknowledge their opinion without surrendering your peace. This does not mean you should avoid every difficult conversation. There are moments when you must speak. There are boundaries that must be defended and injustices that should not be ignored. But speak with intention, not impulse. Say what needs to be said, say it clearly, and then stop. You do not need 10 explanations after the truth has already been spoken. Your dignity does not require an audience cheering for you. The person trying to provoke you may expect you to become emotional because your reaction gives them something to use. Do not give away that power so easily. Breathe before answering. Lower your voice instead of raising it. Take a moment before sending that message. Leave the room if necessary. A few seconds of restraint can save you from hours, days, or even years of regret. And understand something beautiful. Walking away does not mean they defeated you. Sometimes walking away means you finally stopped fighting battles that were beneath your peace. You are allowed to outgrow the need to have the last word. You are allowed to let people believe whatever they choose about you. You are allowed to protect your energy without explaining why. There will always be people who misunderstand your silence. Let them. There will always be people who call your calmness weakness because they cannot control you anymore. Let them. Your responsibility is not to convince every person of your worth. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the person you are becoming. The next time someone tries to provoke you in public, remember this. They may be testing your temper, but you are deciding your character. You can give them the reaction they wanted, or you can give yourself the peace you deserve. Choose yourself. Choose restraint. Choose wisdom. Because sometimes the most powerful sentence you can speak is nothing at all. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply walk away. There is a quiet difference between being proud of what you have accomplished and needing everyone around you to know about it. You have every right to celebrate your progress. You have every right to be grateful for the opportunities you have earned, the obstacles you have overcome, and the life you have built. But there comes a point when confidence turns into performance, when gratitude turns into boasting, and when success becomes something you use to make other people feel less successful. That is the moment when you begin to lose the beauty of what you worked so hard to achieve. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy character. Connections can open doors, but they cannot make you worthy of walking through them. Titles can create attention, but they cannot create respect. And achievements can make people admire what you have done, but only your character determines whether they admire who you are. The world may be impressed by your possessions for a moment, but people remember how you treated them long after they forgot what you were wearing or what you were driving. You do not have to announce every blessing. Some of the most meaningful things in life become more precious when they remain yours alone. Let your success breathe without constantly placing it on display. Let people discover your strength through the way you carry yourself. When you enter a room, you should not need to list your accomplishments before people recognize your confidence. There is something deeply powerful about a person who knows their value, but does not demand that everyone else acknowledge it. Bragging often comes from a place of insecurity. A person who constantly tells everyone how important they are may secretly be asking the room to convince them of their own importance. They need applause because silence makes them question themselves. But when you truly know your worth, you stop performing for approval. You no longer need to mention who you know, what you own, how much you earn, or how many people admire you. You become comfortable allowing your life to speak for itself, and understand that not everyone listening to your success is celebrating it with you. Some people may be struggling quietly. Someone may be working 3 jobs while you talk about luxury. Someone may have lost an opportunity you take for granted. Someone may be carrying a financial burden you know nothing about. This does not mean you must hide your blessings or feel guilty for succeeding. It simply means you can carry success with humility. You can be grateful without making another person feel inadequate. There is a special kind of elegance in saying less. You can walk into a room knowing what you have accomplished without turning your achievements into a competition. You can wear your success lightly. You can help someone without reminding them that you were the one who helped. You can introduce yourself without giving a resume of your importance. You can allow people to learn about your life naturally instead of forcing them to admire it. The truth is, real success does not need constant advertising. A tree full of fruit does not shout about what it carries. It simply grows, gives, and stands. In the same way, let your life become evidence of your work. Let your discipline show in your habits. Let your wisdom show in your decisions. Let your generosity show in how you treat people who cannot give you anything in return. And when people compliment you, receive it with gratitude instead of turning it into an opportunity to boast. Say thank you, smile, keep moving. You do not need to transform every compliment into a story about yourself. Humility does not mean pretending you have accomplished nothing. It means knowing that your accomplishments are part of your story, not the entirety of your identity. One day, people will forget the price of your car, the size of your house, the company you kept, and the impressive names you mentioned. But they will remember whether you made them feel respected. They will remember whether you were kind when you had power. They will remember whether your success made you generous or arrogant. So let your character speak louder than your achievements. Let your humility become more memorable than your wealth. And let the person you are when nobody is impressed become greater than the image you create when everyone is watching. There is a difference between being honest about what hurts and making complaining the language of your life. Life will give you difficult days. You will experience disappointment, exhaustion, betrayal, financial pressure, rejection, and moments when nothing seems to go according to plan. You are allowed to admit that something is difficult. You are allowed to say, I'm struggling. But when every conversation becomes a list of everything that is wrong, something begins to change inside you. You stop simply describing your circumstances, and slowly you begin to build your identity around them. Complaining can become a habit so quietly that you do not even notice it. You wake up complaining about the weather, complain about work, complain about people, complain about your family, complain about money, complain about traffic, and then wonder why your mind feels exhausted before the day has even begun. The problem is not that any one complaint is necessarily wrong. The problem is that your attention becomes trained to search for what is wrong instead of what is possible. And when you constantly complain in public, you may unintentionally teach people to see you through your problems. They may begin to associate your presence with negativity, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. Eventually, people may stop asking how you are, not because they do not care, but because they already know the answer will become another long list of everything you dislike. You deserve relationships where you can be honest, but you also have a responsibility to bring more than your frustrations into the lives of others. This does not mean you should pretend everything is wonderful when it is not. That is not strength, that is denial. There are moments when you need to speak about pain. There are moments when asking for help is necessary. There are situations that deserve to be confronted rather than silently tolerated. But there is a difference between sharing a problem because you want to solve it and repeating a problem because you have become comfortable living inside it. Ask yourself, am I talking about this because I am searching for a solution or because I want someone else to carry my frustration for a while? That question can change the way you communicate. If there is something you can change, take action. If there is something you cannot change, learn to release it. If you need help, ask for help. If you need rest, give yourself rest. But do not keep reopening the same wound simply because complaining feels easier than healing. There is also power in learning to protect your energy. Not every frustration needs to be announced. Not every disappointment needs an audience. Sometimes you can have a difficult morning and still choose to speak kindly to someone. Sometimes you can be struggling financially and still be grateful for what remains. Sometimes your plans can fall apart and you can quietly begin making new ones. You do not have to deny your pain to refuse to let pain control your entire personality. Think about the people who make you feel lighter after speaking with them. They are not necessarily people without problems. In fact, some of the strongest people you know may be carrying enormous burdens. What makes them different is that they refuse to let their burdens become the only thing they bring into every room. They have learned to acknowledge the storm without becoming the storm. Gratitude can become a powerful interruption to the habit of complaining. When you catch yourself focusing on what is missing, deliberately notice what is still present. Your health, your breath, a person who cares about you, another morning, another opportunity, another chance to begin again. Gratitude does not erase problems, but it prevents problems from becoming the only thing you can see. And there will be days when you fail at this. You will complain. You will become frustrated. You will have moments when you simply need to let everything out. Give yourself grace. The goal is not to become a person who never struggles. The goal is to become a person who does not allow struggle to define them. So before you make your next complaint public, pause for a moment. Ask whether your words will create understanding, invite a solution, or simply spread the frustration inside you. Choose your words with care. Speak when speaking will help. Be silent when silence protects your peace. Take action when action is possible. And when something is beyond your control, release it with courage. Your life will not become perfect when you stop complaining, but your mind may become clearer. Your relationships may become healthier. Your energy may become lighter. And you may discover that there was always more beauty in your life than your constant frustration allowed you to see. Do not let temporary problems become permanent descriptions of who you are. You are more than what went wrong. You are also everything that remains, everything you are learning, and everything you still have the courage to become. There are things people tell you because they trust you, not because they want the whole world to know. A private conversation is a kind of invisible promise. When someone shares their fear, their family struggle, their financial difficulty, their heartbreak, or something they are deeply embarrassed about, they are placing a small piece of their life into your hands. What you do with that information says something powerful about your character. You can turn their vulnerability into entertainment, or you can protect it with the same care you would want someone to give your own heart. Too often, people reveal private matters in public and then call it conversation. They mention someone's relationship problems at dinner. They tell a friend's secret while laughing with a group. They expose someone's mistake because they think the story will make them interesting. They may even say, "Don't tell anyone, but," and then proceed to tell someone else what was never theirs to share. What seems like a harmless story to one person can feel like a deep betrayal to another. You must learn to understand the difference between information and permission. Knowing something about another person does not automatically give you the right to share it. Just because you were trusted with the truth does not mean the truth belongs to you. Some information is not yours to carry into public conversations. Some stories should remain exactly where they were first spoken, in confidence. And if someone has trusted you with something painful, do not make their vulnerability the price they pay for being honest with you. People already live in a world where they often feel judged. They worry about how others will see them, whether their mistakes will define them, and whether their weaknesses will be used against them later. When you protect someone's private life, you give them something rare, a place where they do not have to perform, pretend, or defend themselves. There is also a quiet form of cruelty in telling someone else's story before they are ready to tell it themselves. Perhaps they are struggling in their marriage. Perhaps they lost their job. Perhaps they made a mistake they deeply regret. Perhaps they are dealing with something they have not yet found the courage to discuss publicly. You may know the details, but you do not know their entire journey. You do not know how much courage it took for them to survive that moment. So be careful with what you repeat. If you are angry with someone, that still does not give you ownership of their secrets. A disagreement does not erase trust. A friendship ending does not give you permission to expose everything that person once told you. And if someone has hurt you, seek support from people who can genuinely help you, but do not turn revenge into public storytelling. You can tell the truth about your experience without deliberately destroying another person's dignity. There is strength in being someone people can trust. Imagine being the person whose name makes others feel safe, the person who does not repeat what was said behind closed doors, the person who does not use private information as ammunition during an argument, the person who can hear something sensitive and simply say, "That stays with me." That kind of integrity cannot be purchased. It is built through countless small choices when nobody is watching. Of course, there are situations where keeping information private is not appropriate, especially when someone is in serious danger or needs professional help. Protecting privacy does not mean protecting harmful behavior. Wisdom means knowing the difference between a confidence that should be honored and a situation where seeking appropriate help is necessary. Your goal is never to hide harm. Your goal is to treat people's personal lives with responsibility. And remember, your own private life deserves protection too. If you want people to respect your boundaries, learn to respect theirs. Do not demand confidentiality from others while casually exposing their secrets. Character is consistency. The way you treat someone else's vulnerability becomes a reflection of how seriously you take your own dignity. So when someone trusts you with something personal, pause before you ever repeat it. Ask yourself whether you have permission to tell the story. If you do not, keep it where it belongs. Let your silence become a shelter rather than a punishment. Because one of the most beautiful things you can say without speaking is this: "You trusted me, and I will not betray that trust." The world has enough people who collect secrets to gain attention. Be different. Be the person who protects what others place in your hands. Be careful with people's names, their stories, their struggles, and their wounds. Because when you learn to protect another person's dignity, when you could easily expose it, you prove that your character is stronger than your desire for attention.